In this video, we're gonna go over the 3 must-try lures for beginner saltwater anglers. And at the end, I'll show a tip on really how to save a lot of money and get great results. Pretty much at all times, fish with saltwater fish, whether they're going after redfish, sea trout, snook, or flounder, they're feeding either on bait fish or shrimp, and many times both. But as long as you have either a bait fish imitation or a shrimp imitation, you're pretty much in good standing throughout the entire year. The core essentials, these 2 right here are awesome. Obviously there's other options, but these 2, and at the end you're gonna see why these are I guess extra beneficial. These things flat out work. We have members from Texas all the way up to Virginia, and these are by far the most 2 popular lures of all across the members. And this is, again, the #1 for bait fish imitation, and this is #1 for shrimp imitation. And as far as sizing goes, they're both 3.5 inches, which is the perfect length that can apply to both the winter time when fish are usually smaller, when the prey are usually smaller, versus the summer and fall when they're usually bigger. These things will flat out work all season long. So if you get comfortable with just these 2 lures, you're gonna be able to consistently catch fish as long as you're putting yourself in the best spots, which of course is always the highest priority when we're on the water. So as far as what the 3rd one is, there's actually a trick. You only need 2, but you do need to have some rigging. So the rigging is essentially the 3rd one, and this is gonna save you a ton of money. If you just follow this, you don't have to go out and buy a ton of tackle. And with rigging, you need to have one option that lets you fish the shallow water, right? 2.5 feet or less, and then just a deeper option for fishing deeper water. And the cool thing about these 2 lures that I talked about and these 2 rigging options is that these both rig perfectly with both of these lures. So we'll start with the 2.0. So the cool thing about this rigging style is that this is the easiest way to rig on a weighted hook. This is made by Owner. It's called it has a centering pin, and it's just a coil. And so the first step is literally to grab it and then take the coil, that centering pin, right in the middle of the bait, and then push down. And as you push down, just twist. And what we're doing is we're literally screwing the lure onto the weighted hook. And we get it to the point where it's essentially touching the top. The coil is now hidden, and we want the underbelly towards the hook. The hook's gonna go in the underbelly. There's a little slot down the bottom, and we mark with our finger exactly where that hook is gonna naturally go through the lure. If you go too far down, it's gonna cause it to bend and not look natural. But if we put it right where it naturally goes through, all's good. And so we're just gonna, once we get our fingers in the right spot, we're just gonna twist it 90 degrees, take it straight down the middle, and now we have a perfectly rigged paddle tail. And this is great. Again, the cool thing about this for fishing shallows, if there's seagrass or if there's oysters nearby, this is very weedless. That hook point is basically flush with the back, so you're not gonna be getting snagged. And if you need to be extra weedless, you can skin hook it. Let me show you here. With that, you just pull the material up, embed the hook point into it, and now that hook point is not exposed at all. This is incredibly weedless. You can skip under docks, you can bounce off of oysters without getting snagged, and then when that redfish or trout hits it, it's gonna put some pressure down, and now the hook point's exposed and you're gonna be catching the fish. With this lure alone across our members, there's been over 100 species logged with it. So pretty much any predator species that feeds on bait fish that are about 3 to 4 inches will absolutely hit this lure. So let's go check out the jig head rigging in case you're new to it. And as you'll see, it is easy as well. And I'm gonna show you a trick that I learned fairly recently that would have saved me hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over the years as far as helping the lures last longer. There's what's called the 90-degree load technique. If you haven't learned that or heard of it, make sure to watch because it'll save you money. So to do this rigging, it's very simple, as you'll see. #1, have the jig head in one hand, the lure in the other. In this case, the lure, the underbelly slot needs to be away from the jig head. So this underbelly is facing away, and we're gonna take the hook straight down the middle, dead center, straight down the middle. Make sure that you're going down the middle the entire way. And we're gonna keep pushing it down until that soft plastic gets to right about there on the hook. This is a size 2/0 hook. This jig head, I don't think I mentioned it, it's the Haas round eye jig head 2/0 size hook in a 3/16 ounce weight. The 1/4 ounce is very popular as well. Both of them are great. But as far as with this hook and this lure, when that head gets right there where it's just starting to turn back, that's when we need to point the hook out of the back, direct middle. And here's where most people make the mistake, which ends up being a lure killer, is a lot of people just immediately just push the lures over the keepers at the normal orientation. Yes, it obviously works, Yes, it'll catch you a decent amount of fish, but when the lure goes over the keepers, those keepers do make some tears, and that's obviously not bad. That's gonna hurt the longevity. So to get away from that, we just twist the lure 90 degrees, and then we push it over the keepers. Now the tearing is happening at the different orientation. It's happening on the sides. And as soon as we get the lure up to the jig head, then we twist it back into place. Now these keepers are in the lure, and all the material that is actually holding it in place is in perfect condition. It has not been compromised at all by those keepers going through. This will help you catch probably 2 to 3 times more fish per lure with that simple technique. It doesn't take any longer to do it other than a quick turn. So this lure, right, if they're feeding on shrimp and they're in under 3 feet of water, this lure is gonna catch pretty much every fish. I've caught sheep's head, I even caught permit, obviously cobia, triple tail, snook, redfish, trout, flounder. If something feeds on a shrimp and you have it on the right rigging for the depth of your fishing, you're gonna be catching fish. And then same thing with the paddle tail, wherever it went. There's fish are feeding on bait fish and you have it and it's up in the shallow waters, rig it on the helix hook, you're gonna be catching a ton of fish. But if they're deep, you need to rig it on the jig head. Same exact process for rigging applies to both lures. Again, they're both paired perfectly for it. And I just wish somebody would have given me this advice years ago. No telling how much money I wasted on lures, thinking that I just had to have the perfect lure to get success. I was wrong. All I needed were these 2 lures, in a rig for the shallow water that was good, and a rig for the deeper water that was good. And this small assembly will put you there. As long as you get yourself in a good spot, you'll be catching a good amount of fish. And if you want to get these lures, they're all available at fishstrong.com. And we actually have a bundle. It's called the Inshore Slammer Bundle, where if you get all these together, you're gonna save a good amount of money to have the best price ever for these lures. And of course, if you're a member, you get 20% off of all this gear. So you're gonna get 20% off on top of the bundle discount as well. Any questions at all, please do not hesitate to let us know. Comment section down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. See you again soon.